Very good morning to all. Today we are going to discuss about the inductive transducers. This is also like a resistive transducer. The construction of inductive transducers designed from its basic relation. Okay, basic relation means inductance equal to say for construction of resistive transducer, we basically consider R equal to rho L by A. Similarly, for inductive transducer, we consider L equal to N square G divided by R. N is a number of turns. G is the geometrical construction factor. Geometrical construction factor. And R is the reluctance. Let us first discuss about the relations between the inductive coils. N is number of turns of the coil, inductive coil, and the reluctance. So what are the various basic relations? First we understand the various basic relations. Then we go for the constructional features of different type of transducers. Okay, you know, inductance is basically two types: self-inductance and mutual inductance, right? For self-inductance, we normally have one coil or two coil with a single core. So one coil with one core, two coil with one core. These are all self-inductance based. Say if have one coil and two more coils called mutual inductance transducers. Even sometimes one coil and one primary coil and one secondary coil also considered as a mutual inductance. But the mutual inductance of the two coil, single primary and single secondary coils are not mostly used, okay, because of its non-linearity at a very high large distance. Mostly, I already inform you the resistance, the inductance, most of the inductance, resistance, capacitive transducers. Mostly these three type of transducers mainly used for displacement applications. Displacement and its derivative of displacement. Displacement means derivative of displacement means, say, measurement of velocity, speed, measurement of acceleration, then vibration. Okay, most of the cases the inductive transducers are used for vibrating some objects, detect some vibrating object without contact. Most of the vibrating transducers located on the object where we are intended to measure the acceleration or vibration. So contact type, mostly vibrating transducers are mainly available based on contact. But if you use inductive transducer, we can measure the vibration of any sensitive object without contact. Okay, let us go for the different so inductive transducers. So mainly based on the physical effect they employ. What are the physical effect? So variation of self-inductance, variation of mutual inductance, and okay. So inductive transducers, basic relation is L equal to mu or mu n square A by L. Okay, so let's see how this here the inductance is function of mu. So if we consider mu, then number of turns n and the geometric configuration, the A and L. So A by A and L are the different shape and size. Okay, it is considered as G. So the variation of inductance increase or decrease depend on the mu. If we keep the geometric construction as a constant, if we vary the mu, so then that inductive transducer called variable permeability. Variable permeability inductive transducer. Okay, variable permittivity type. If we keep mu and G constant, if we vary n, is called the inductance, variable inductance transducer based on number of turns. So variable area, number of turns. If we keep these three constant, mu, n, L and A, then those transducers are called variable area inductive transducer. Okay, so based on effect, physical effect, you can have self-inductance, mutual inductance, and eddy current. This eddy current is also called Foucault current transducers, Foucault. Then proximity switches. So these four types very important for us. Okay. So basically, an inductive transducer is having the number of turns. Say n is number of turns. So number of turns in the coil. So here E is the EMF. This is nothing but based on Faraday's law, Faraday's effect. So E is induced EMF. N is the number of turns. Okay. So I is current. I is current. So this is battery voltage B, or this can be V. V is the battery voltage, so applied voltage to the coil. Then E is the EMF induced in the coil. N is the number of turns. Okay. If you want to have the variable number of turns coil, you consider we are inserting a object. Okay, some core. We are inserting a core inside. So when the core is moving inside, based on the contact number area, the contact area of the turns. So where how much coil this core is covered. So that depends on the number of turns. So when there is a magnetic, electric field, if we insert a core inside the coil which is having current, then there will be an EMF. That EMF is E. So that EMF is given as minus L di by dt. So differential of this current and the self-inductance of the coil, minus C minus. You know this minus, why this minus? We are all know this minus indicates Lenz's law. Okay, minus indicates Lenz's law. So minus L di by dt, this we know. This is also equal to minus N d phi by dt. Phi is flux, N is number of turns. Phi is flux. Okay. Just a minute. Okay, sorry. E equal to minus L di by dt, which is equal to minus N d phi by dt. So yeah, phi is the flux linkage. So by equating this, we can get L di by dt equal to N d phi by dt. This dt cancel. So we will get L di by dt equal to N d phi by dt. If you integrate this with respect to time, or with respect to their limits from I1 to I2, say phi1 to phi, we will get L di, integral of di equal to I, integral of d phi equal to phi. Okay, so N d phi by Li equal to N d phi by dt. We know the relation. What is the magnetic flux density? This is flux. What is flux density? B equal to flux by area. Okay, flux by area. So if you substitute instead of flux, this A comes here. So instead of flux, we substitute BA. So N BA. Okay. Also, we know that the B equal to, so flux density also have another relation. So the flux density mainly depend on the magnetic field. The magnetic field strength is H. Okay, these are all basic relations only. So B is also equal to H. That is proportional to H. So if you equate that, we will introduce mu H. So magnetic flux density is nothing but mu times H. So instead of B again we are replacing this mu H. So N mu H A. Okay. So also we know that this H, okay, H is the Li. This is Henry ampere. Okay, Henry ampere equal to Ni equal to Li equal to this equal to Ni. So instead of H, we can substitute I. So Li is also equal to H. Li equal to H. HL, right? So Ni, sorry, this is not right. Ni equal to Li, not Li. You see, instead of H, we replace yes, Ni equal to HL. That's right. The flux density, the field, electric field strength multiplied by L. So Ni equal to number of turns, the turn, ampere turn. This is called ampere turn equal to field strength H into L. So what is H? Instead of H, we can substitute ampere turns. So this Ni equal to the ampere turns equal to HL by N ampere turns equal to H into N. So H equal to Ni by L. This L comes here. So instead of H in this equation, we simply substitute the Ni ampere turns per length, which is equal to H. Okay. So this H is replaced by Ni by L. So again, this N into N square, N into N square. Okay. This mu, this A. Okay. this L. So n square mu, this I and this I cancel each other. So L it becomes n square. Okay, L equal to n square mu A by L. So from this relation, what we conclude, this L equal to n square. Okay, n square mu. The A by L is considered as G, geometric factor. Okay, so the L equal to mu square, sorry, n square mu G. So G is A, depend on area of cross section of the coil, and the L, so length of the coil. This is normally, this area is considered as the overlapping, the overlapping area between the movable core, the overlapping area. So wherever the core is overlap with the number of turns. Okay, so that is considered as geometric construction. So area is overlapping area, L is overlapping length. Suppose say this is a coil. If the coil length is say 10 centimeter or 10 centimeter, if the core is having 2 centimeter, okay, so that 2 centimeter is the overlapping area. How many turns are available across the 2 centimeter core? That is considered as the overlapping geometric construction, overlapping area as well as overlapping length. So this is the derivation for the inductance transducer. This is also very basic relation for your magnetic measurements in electrical and electronic instruments. So remember, even this relation is also helpful in the PMMC instruments and moving iron coil instruments, MI instruments. This N5 equal to NBA. So you know that this Ni cancel, so BA. This HL, the Ni ampere turns, and HL also plays an important role in the electrical electronic instrument subject. Next we see, this is very basic inductive transducer. It's called linearly variable inductive transducer. Linearly variable inductive transducer. This is not LVDT, this is LVIT, linearly variable inductive transducer. Okay, which is the constructional feature is very simple. So it's a self-inductance type transducer. So this is coil. So coil, this is a coil. Current is flowing inside the coil. So current I. So the coil is wound over the former. There is a soft iron core placed inside the former. So the overlapping area of the former iron core and the coil gives the output. Okay, so this is basically variation of the constructional, not mu. Okay, so this is called self-inductance type as well as self-inductance type as well as variable construction G, area of contact and length L. So this is the arm. This is the arm where we can connect, where we are intended to measure some. Suppose there is an object here. So which the object has a linear motion. Consider a small moving object. So this object is moving to and fro motion. So we can attach this arm at this junction, so that we can detect the output for variation of the displacement. So this is very simple. The advantage of this LVIDT is, which is not having any, for all inductive transducers and capacitive transducers, there is, you can get the one important point that there is no wear and tear effect because there is no contact between primary and secondary. So there will be no problem of mechanical hysteresis. You know what is mechanical hysteresis? Hysteresis is, you know that, okay, when we increase from input to maximum, so it follows one path. When we decrease from maximum to minimum, decrease, it should follow the same path, but in magnetic material it is not happening. So following path is this one, returning path is this one. So this characteristics called hysteresis. This happens mostly in magnetic material. Okay, similar to this, in mechanical, the gears, okay, you know the gears, in gears say in gears, there is a contact area. So gears, so another gear is here. So who's this called so there is a slippery contact across the gears. So those contacts are called the slippery error is called, sometimes called mechanical hysteresis. It is also referred as backlash. So backlash error is called the slipping, the slipping. When the gear rotates in forward direction, it will properly rotate. When we reverse this contact, when the reverse this another contact gear, so when we reverse this gear, there is a slipping occurs. So because of that slipping contact between two gears is called backlash. So sometimes in two more questions, examiner will ask in two more questions, what is backlash? Okay. So also this provides good response for dynamic measurements, dynamic when very fast motion, very good frequency response. So because of good frequency response of this LVIT, there is a fast response. So it is used for static as well as dynamic. It provides very high output. So this can be connected to any bridge circuit, AC bridge circuit, where one arm of AC bridge is replaced by this output, or in most of the cases, this self-inductance transducers connected across the tank circuit. You know tank circuit. So one inductance and a capacitance, variable capacitance. Okay. So variable inductance. So this variable inductance is can be replaced by this LVIT. You can connect LVIT instead of inductance in the tank circuit. You know tank oscillator. This is a tank oscillator circuit, basic tank oscillator circuit. You know the very famous tank oscillators, Colpit oscillator. Colpit oscillator is a very famous tank circuit oscillators. That is that can be constructed using op-amp also. Okay, so the tank circuit, the frequency response, frequency equal to, you know that, 1 by 2 pi square root of LC. So the inductance and capacitance. So this inductance and capacitance. So if we increase the inductance of this coil, the self-inductance, there will be a frequency. Okay, there is a, if inductance increases, frequency decreases. So depend on this relation, you can create a very good inductive transducer. So based on this, we can have one linearly variable inductive transducer in our laboratory. That is very good setup. Let us see the working of the laboratory setup. Okay. Sorry. So this is the laboratory setup of our one more. I have to erase it. Okay, this is a laboratory setup of. I think you would have already experienced with this kit, linearly variable inductive transducer kit. Okay.
Today, we are going to see the laboratory setup for inductive transducer. The measurement of linear displacement using inductive transducer. So the inductive transducer consists of only a single primary and single secondary, whereas LVDT has one primary and two secondary in LVDT circuit. Okay, so all inductive transducers, both self-inductive as well as mutual inductive transducer, should be excited by AC source. So the excitation is AC source. Then the secondary output from the inductive transducer is signal condition converted into DC voltage by means of precise rectifier. This is precision rectifier. What is precision rectifier? That we will discuss in theory. Okay. So then next, this precision rectifier output is very, very small, which is to be signal condition. And
actually, the precision rectifier is nothing but the op-amp based very high accurate rectifier. The main difference between the precision rectifier and the normal diode rectifier is this is very simple. The diode will respond only after 0.7 volt. So what is 0.7 volt? 0.7 volt is the threshold voltage of the diode, PN junction diode. So if we use diode rectifier for rectification here, we may not get the output very accurately because the variation of inductance is very small. So to rectify the convert into DC, so we cannot use ordinary full bridge rectifier or any other rectifier. That's why the precision rectifier is used in this signal conditioning circuit. So what is the major advantage? So precision rectifier will rectify the volt even lesser than 0.7 volt. Also. If you use bridge rectifier, it will convert the AC into DC only above 0.7 volt. That is the major drawback. That's why we use the precision rectifier for its advantage here.
Converted into suitable DC output. So signal conditioning. Then this signal conditioning output connected to a precision amplifier. So it's an amplifier, very good accurate amplifier, and the amplifier is connected to the display device. This is 3.5 digit display, right? So 3.5 digit display. So this kit. This practical arrangement has two adjustments. One is zero adjustment, then span adjustment. So from this RS-232 cable, this inductive transducer is connected. So this is the inductive transducer. This is the inner core. So here this is inner core. This core is connected internally. This inductive transducer is made up of soft iron core inside one primary and secondary. So this is the core. This is an external arrangement to measure the displacement of the core. So this micrometer is helpful to accurately measure the linear displacement of the core. So this is core. See, core movement. Input and output. This is core movement. So this input core displacement is externally measured using this micrometer. Okay. First, the procedure to do this experiment is first fix switch up.
First, we have to calibrate the setup. So as we see in the picture, there is a two adjustment, zero and span adjustment. What for zero and span? That is for calibration of the inductive transducer. What are the steps for calibration? There are 3 steps for calibration. Okay, what are the 3 steps? First, the first 3 steps for calibration is zero and span. The third one is for linearity. Okay, so zero adjustment, span adjustment, and linearity. Zero for correction at the zero, and the span for the span adjustment, the maximum value, the gain adjustment. Okay, this is for span. Span is the total range, the maximum range adjustment. So linearity is the mid value check. So for doing this calibration, first we have to set 0 at 0. So keep the micrometer at 0 and see the display whether it shows 0 or not. If it doesn't show 0, you use 0 adjustment part. We will see here. Okay, 0 adjustment part. Then set 0 in the display. Then move to 10 mm displacement, because the normally inductive transducers are using very short displacement, maximum 25 mm, 2.5 centimeter only we can measure. Okay, so here for if you go beyond 2.5, you see if we go for a higher range of displacement, non-linearity occurs. Okay, so also the low frequency response available in the inductive transducers. Understand? Let's continue the video.
On the key, switch on the key, you just observe the output. Okay, so observe the output and see the micrometer reading. Okay, this micrometer reading, it should be fixed at the 0. So this 0, this 0 and this 0 coincide with each other. Both verniers should coincide each other. So first we fix the 0. Clear? It is 0. Now this okay. Now the core is at 0 position. That means the core is at the core is at 1 xt. Okay, this xt. So that time the meter should show 0 reading. So 0 millivolt. So what we designed in this circuit is 1 millivolt output for 1 mm displacement. So this micrometer measures 1 mm displacement. Okay, so totally we can measure up to 20 mm, 20 to 25 mm displacement using this inductive transducer. So first set the micrometer at 0, then see the display. So it should show 0. Otherwise, using this zero adjustment part, you bring it to zero. So slowly adjust, bring it to zero. Now the source zero. So this micrometer reading also zero. So it is also showing zero. Some fluctuation is there due to power. So then you adjust this micrometer and fix at 10 mm displacement. You carefully take the reading. This is 5 mm. It is showing 5 mm. Then fix at 10 mm. So now we set at 10 mm. So fix at 10 mm. You see the display. Okay, for 10 mm displacement, it should give 10 millivolt. So, but we are not getting 10 millivolt. So for that, we have to adjust the gain point, the span adjustment, and bring it to bring it to 10 mm. Sorry, for 10 mm, 10 millivolt displacement.
So when 10 mm placed in the micrometer, we bring it to 10 millivolt. Okay. Again, you go back to 0 mm in the micrometer, place the core at 0 mm. Again, you have to see 0 mm display, 0 millivolt displacement here. If it is not so, again use zero adjustment part to bring zero. So similarly, you have to calibrate this setup for nearly, it will take nearly 4 to 5 times to get the consistent zero output and 10 millivolt at 10 mm displacement. So this is the simple inductive transducer we are using in our transducer and measurement laboratory. Understand? This is simple inductive transducer. Next is mutual inductance transducer. Mutual inductance transducer. So where only in here this is a simple mutual inductance transducer. Here the two coils for inner primary and the secondary. Okay, so inner primary and secondary coil. So primary coil is excited with the AC. Normally this AC excitation for mutual inductance transducers vary from 3 to 15 volts. AC excitation voltage range from 3 to 15 volts. Then frequency from 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz. 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz. So this is excitation. So we are getting the output at the secondary terminals T1 and T2. These two terminals can be connected to the AC bridge, any one arm of AC bridge for amplification. Okay, so this is actually in the previous inductive transducer, the core is inside the coil. So core is inside the primary and secondary coil. Whereas here the core is externally placed. So this is ferromagnetic displacement plate. So this is externally connected. So this is a ferromagnetic material. So when the ferromagnetic material is very close, so this is displacement of the displacement, that is a gap between the movable ferromagnetic plate and the coil structure. So when the plate is very close to the, this is also called probe. So okay, this is a probe, you can call it as probe. So mutual inductance probe. This is mainly used for nearby objects, to sensing the nearby objects. So the technical name for sensing the nearby object is called proximity. Okay, it is called proximity, nearing object. The direction of nearby object is called proximity sensor. This arrangements also used for proximity purpose. Okay, but this is very small. This is the cross section of this winding. So inner primary, outer secondary, the terminals, outer secondary terminals T1 to T2 taken here. So inner coil is excited with the AC. Okay, this is cross sectional view of the coil. So this is the mode. So as you know that when the gap between this probe and the plate is large, the reluctance will be more. Reluctance is nothing but magnetic resistance. In electrical circuit, resistance. In magnetic circuit, it is called reluctance. Okay, so you know that reluctance of the magnetic circuit R, okay, is nothing but L by mu A. L by mu A. So this is called reluctance. So this is very simple. When the ferromatic plate moves towards this, suppose displacements towards the probe, there will be more inductance. So it is connected to a bridge circuit. You already studied the T1 and T2. The T1 and T2 better a single arm in the Wheatstone bridge, sorry, the AC bridge is replaced by this is AC excitation. This arm, one arm of the AC bridge is replaced by T1, T2. So this is T2, T1. This is a standard coil which is used to calibrate when the displacement at 0. So we should adjust this inductance arm to get null deflection in the vibrational galvanometer. The output deduction is vibrational galvanometer for AC. Ballast 0 ordinary galvanometer for DC bridge. For detecting the AC, so AC bridge output, you should use either vibrational galvanometer or headphone. Okay, headphone for balancing. Okay, when the 0 displacement, vibrational galvanometer shows 0 deflection. So when the displacement is moving away, there is a change in impedance in this arm. So that impedance causes some deflection in the galvanometer. That galvanometer reading is measure of the displacement of this. So this is a very simple setup for simple mutual inductance transducer. Okay. So the advantages small when compared to other type of transducer, inductive transducers. No wear and tear effect. It is minimized in this circuit. So for a small value of displacement, there will be a good output voltage. So okay, linear output. If the displacement increases, the linearity affects. So non-linearity exists for very high displacement. Okay. This type of transducers works even with very high temperature because this coil, the inductance not affected by temperature degrees Celsius. So the eddy current transducer alone affected by temperature. Okay, so that is the major advantage here. So this can be used for very high temperature also. Disadvantage is, as I said here, for large value of displacement, it's not accurate. Nonlinearity exists. Okay. The also, if there is any external magnetic field nearby the sensor, so this easily pick up, this magnetic material easily pick up the variation. So the external magnetic field may cause harm to the ferromagnetic material. So that is the major drawback here. Due to that external magnetic field, this plate may deviate from its line of action. Okay. This is a linearly variable differential transducer or transformer. This is very important transducer used in the machineries, industries. Many places, the linearly variable differential transducer or transformer plays a vital role. But the limitation is very small and accurate displacement measurement. Okay, so this is the AC characteristics. The AC characteristics of LVDT. This is the DC characteristics. So actually, this is actual AC characteristics. This is signal conditioned output of the DC output from the inductive transducers. That is LVDT. So the LVDT basically consists of the important component of LVDT: core, the movable soft iron core, movable iron core. So this is connected to displacement where we are intended to displacement. Okay, so displacement object which is moving or like a camshaft in the CNC machines, camshaft. So the camshaft is accurately measured using the LVDT modules, LVDT sensors. This can be used for vibrational measurement. The LVDT can be used for acceleration measurement. Okay, so we can connect this mobile arm to the process where we are mainly measure the displacement. So there are one primary and two secondary coils. So this secondary coils and primary coils both are wound over the core. Okay, sorry, both are wound over the fixed core. Okay, this is secondary one. The another coil, secondary two. Let N1 is the number of turns in the secondary coil 1, N2 is the number of turns in the secondary coil 2. The design important consideration is both N1 and N2 should be equal in turns. The number of turns in the secondary 1 and secondary 2 should be equal. Whereas primary coil turns may not be equal to N1 and N2. So the primary coil, okay. So primary coil also wound on the sheath, that is a core, a hollow cylindrical core tube. So it is wound. These three coil wound over the hollow cylindrical core. So what are the parts of LVDT? The hollow cylindrical tube. So in that tube there are two layers. Inner tube is wound by the inner over the inner tube, the three coils, the inner tube, the three coils wound. So again it is closed by another cylindrical coil, cylindrical sheath. Okay, so cylindrical tube. So there are two tubes with the insulations. Okay, the equivalent circuit for this is here also the AC excitation. So the primary coil is excited by AC. The constant, the range of AC excitation here also, the magnitude is 3 to 15 volt AC, 15 volt, and the frequency is 50 to 20 kilohertz. You should excite this coil with very high frequency. So if you excite the coil with very high frequency, you will get more output from the secondary. Okay, so there are two secondary equal number of turns. These secondary coils are connected in series, but their EMF should be in opposite. So consider this. This is one secondary coil. This is point is considered the direction of the current. So here also another point. So actually this is not represented by plus and minus. Okay, this is the current end, current leaving. So current here is flowing through this. So EMF generate across here. So here the current is in this direction. Here the current is not in this direction. Okay, so you see here the current is in this direction. So the point is here. So plus E, this is minus E. So the EMF, this is the primary coil, this is secondary coil S1. So there is an EMF across these two. Sorry, there is the mutual inductance that is called M1. M1 is the mutual inductance between primary coil and the secondary coil 1. Similarly, the mutual inductance between the primary coil and the secondary coil is M2. So these are all the various parameters exist in the LVDT. So the secondary coils are connected in series. See, the current is flowing through this. Here the current is in opposite way. So it is coming out. So the current flowing inside, and both are connected in series, but in their opposing sides. Okay, in opposition. So EMFs are opposition. So what we get, the V0, the output is the difference between ES1. ES1 is induced EMF in primary, ES1 is induced EMF in secondary one due to the primary coil. Okay, so ES2, induced EMF in the secondary coil due to the primary coil. So V0 is ES1 minus ES2. Okay, so if we vary the core, when this is core is actually at the null position. When the core is at null, the EMF induced in the primary coil and the secondary coil are almost equal. So at null position, we will get some zero voltage output. So this is the output. This is the output V0. That is E0. This E0 is, so when the core is fully at the right extreme, it gives maximum here. When the core from right to left, when moves towards this side, actually this diagram is wrong. Let us not working. The core should be very smaller in size. Say, consider the core size is like this. You forget about this part. So in examination also you draw this much size. Then only you can able to. This core is inside the soft iron core, right? So it should be lesser. It should be lesser than the coil length. So very smaller in size. Okay. So this moves from up to this. This displacement is 25 mm. Sorry, this side is 15 mm. Sorry, 25 mm. This side is 25 mm. Total distance is 5 centimeter. That is 2.5, 2.5 plus or minus. When the core is at middle, equally induced EMF on both secondaries. So we will get 0, but strictly at null position. This position is called null position when the core is at middle. But in practically we may not get 0 output here. Okay, this is AC, output in AC quantity. Okay, so in AC there is no positive and negative. That's why for both sides it is moving. When towards the right extreme, it gives maximum AC output in this side. When moves towards left extreme, it gives maximum output in left. This is negative displacement. This is positive displacement. So the difference is negative displacement is towards the left extreme. Positive displacement is towards right extreme. If we keep the LVDT in vertical position, we can say the core at top position, the core at bottom position, top extreme and bottom. That is simple manipulation in the wordings. That's all. But action is same. So in AC, when you from right extreme, assume the core is at right extreme, so it have maximum value. When the core moves towards towards this direction, so the magnitude value reduces, and finally it comes to a minimum value, not zero. I will tell the reason. Then if you move the core towards left extreme, again the induced EMF increases. Okay, so to the maximum. So there will be a error, always error in when the core is exactly at middle. That error is called residual magnetism error. So that voltage is called residual voltage. Very important terminology. What is called residual EMF or residual voltage. So even the core is at middle, there may be a small amount of voltage available at the output. If you connect a voltmeter at the output, there is small amount, say 0.001 volt output available at the null position. That 0.001 volt output is due to residual magnetism present in the magnetic core soft iron core circuitry. So that residual magnetism creates a voltage. That voltage called residual voltage. Please sometimes ask in the 2 mark question, what is residual voltage? So this is constructional features. Okay, if you connect some modulation circuit, say phase sensitive modulation, we may not able to detect using this AC characteristics whether the displacement in positive side or negative side. So because when the core moves right side, it will get increasing to maximum. When the core moves left side from the null position, it is giving increasing to maximum position. But we may not identify at the output. We may not know the core is whether positive side or negative, because this is fully molded. Okay, it's fully mounted in the in a hollow cylindrical tube. Okay, so we may not able to see the inner core movement. We can able to detect only from the outer. So you connect a AC voltmeter here, so that the AC voltmeter will help us. So you connect a AC voltmeter here, that will give the response similar to this. So we want to detect the positive side, the right movement and left movement, because the LVDT mainly used for bidirectional displacement. We can accurately measure positive displacement and negative displacement. So when the core towards the positive displacement, we should get positive output. When the core moves towards the negative displacement, we should get negative output. So for that, we are going to use a demodulator. Okay, the demodulator circuit called phase sensitive demodulator. So what is phase sensitive demodulator? That we will discuss. Okay, before that, let us see the how the LVDT is working. This is the laboratory setup of our in our laboratory. We are having this setup, linearly variable differential transformer or transducer. So here there are 2 adjustments part. One is amplitude adjustment, other one is phase adjustment. So because we should excite this bridge, the primary of the LVDT, using 3 to 15 volts and 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz. So we should excite this primary with these 2 setups. Okay, the voltage and the frequency. in this kit, we are having a primary coil here. This is primary. This primary should be excited by 3 to 15 volts and 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz. So actually there is a inbuilt circuit in the kit. That circuit is called function generator. So this is function generator IC. You will design this function generator in the next semester. So XR2206. This is the XR2206 IC. XR2206. This is a monolithic function generator. So inbuilt circuit, a small monolithic IC is provided inside the kit. So in that we can adjust the amplitude and the frequency. You know, obviously function generators are used to generate various waveforms, sine, triangular pulse, sawtooth, ramp, like that. Then we can also vary, we can generate various waveforms. We can vary the waveform, the various signals using variation in the amplitude by using the variation in the frequencies. So frequency also variable, amplitude also variable for the different signal. But here we normally design this IC with the sinusoidal excitation. So sinusoidal excitation with the amplitude and frequency adjustment. So this is a practical circuit. This is a phase sensitive demodulator. So we can directly get a plus and a minus output. So this is whatever we are getting here is plus and minus. Whatever here we are getting is so if we connect a AC voltmeter here, we will get the response like this. That is positive side and negative side. Whereas the response we measured here will become positive and negative. So we will get DC characteristics from the 3.5 digit display. If we connect a AC voltmeter or multimeter in AC mode, we will get this type of characteristics. So we have to set say 5 volt here in amplitude part. Here frequency you can set to 1 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz, like that. So you can easily detect if you increase the frequency using amplitude. Say this is 1 kilohertz frequency. Then you see this is say another. This is improved sensitivity. So this is 2 kilohertz. Then similarly here also, if you increase the frequency, AC output also increases. So this is 1 kilohertz, this is for 2 kilohertz. So if you carefully listen here, there is a small voltage error that is called residual voltage. This is a simple setup inside our laboratory. So this is the phase sensitive demodulator circuitry. Phase sensitive demodulator circuitry. Very simple. There are 2 bridge rectifiers connected in this fashion. So this is primary, this is secondary, 2 secondary connected across this 2 bridge rectifiers. Okay, this is the load. So we consider here as AB. This output is AB across this resistor. So C and D voltage across this resistor. So this resistor consider plus and minus. Okay. So this is primary excitation for all. This is primary voltage. Okay. So you consider as EP. EP. So we are exciting this EP with say 3 volt, 1 kilohertz. Assume the excitation is 3 volt and 1 kilohertz. So whatever the output across AB, okay, across AB, this is EAB, across AB, this is ECD, across this is ECD, okay. So this is output across this C and D. So C and D. So this is the interpretation of the output for various position of the core. Okay, when the core is at null, so when the core is at null at the middle position, when the core is at null, we get equal induced EMF in both. Say this is ES1, this is ES2, this is ES2. So so ES1 and ES2, when the core is at null, so both the ES1 it is in ES1, otherwise ECD. So ECD will be maximum. This is a positive, right? ES1 is maximum. So ES1 is maximum. Then our ES2 also maximum because core is at middle. So there is a equal induced EMF in both coils, secondary coils. So, but you see the secondary, yes, ES2 gives smaller output, smaller output. So we will get zero output here. Sorry. Okay, this is ES2. Okay, this ES1. When the core is at right extreme, correct. This is excitation. This is your ES2. This is ES1. So when the core is at right extreme, when the core is at right extreme, the EMF induced in the ES1 is more. So ECD is high. Whereas this is not correct. I simply copied from the book. Actually, this should be very small amount, because when the core is here at right extreme, there will be a small amount of EMF induced in the secondary coil also. The very small amount, not that much large. Say in terms of magnitude, you consider this is 3 volt. This may be 0.5 volt, 0.5 or 0.1 volt, 0.1 volt. So what is the resultant? 3 minus 0.1. So 2.9 volt output is available here. So that is 2.9 volt output. 2.9. Okay. So when the core is at middle, ES1 and ES2 are equal. So ES1 and ES2 are equal. That is EAB and ECD are equal. So when the both are equal, so we get zero output. So practically, this is actually, these are all modulated, only for modulated AC. Modulated AC. So when both are equal, we'll get zero output. So zero output. This is E0. E0 is 0. Okay. Here, when the core is the bottom extreme, when the core is at bottom extreme, the core near to ES2, more EMF induced here. That is in negative side. So since it is minus, so minus. So consider this is minus 3 volt. Minus 3 volt. Okay. But when the core is at below, that is bottom extreme, when the core is bottom extreme, the small amount of EMS also induced in the secondary one. So that is plus 0.1 volt. Assume this is plus 0.1. So this is plus 0.1. So what is the resultant? So we will get minus 2.9. Minus 2.9 volt in the output. So the output interpretation, when the core is at middle, zero output. When the core is at above extreme, that is top extreme or top extreme, ES1 is more. So say ES1 is 3 volt, ES2 is small, that is minus 1 volt. So difference is 2.9 minus 0.1. So sorry, 3 minus 0.1, 2.9. When the core is at bottom extreme, minus 3 volt is generated. So maximum EMF across this ES2. So ES1 is small, that is plus 0.1. Difference between these two will give minus 2.9. This is a simple operation of LVDT. We will discuss the signals conditioning circuit along with the equivalent circuit and the modeling of LVDT in next class. Today, just to see the operation, whatever I explained so far, it is in a graphical format for the easy understanding. So LVDT is a transformer. It is a passive transformer, which is mainly for displacement measurement. It has a primary circuit here, primary circuit, and two secondaries. This two hollow cylinder I told you. So in the primary and secondary coils wound over the hollow cylinders. So ES1 and ES2 are the induced EMF in the secondary coil due to the primary coil, and depends on the placement of the core. So two coils should be having equal number of turns. Okay, so this is the magnetic field created between the core and the primary coil. Okay. So when the primary is excited, when the core is at the middle, there will be equal EMF induced between ES1 and ES2. So the net output becomes 0. Okay. So ES2. This is ES1. This is EMF induced in the primary coil 1, secondary coil 1. This is the EMF induced in the secondary coil. Okay. When the core is at middle, ES1, this EMF induced in both coil equal. Okay. So actually this is 0, but strictly speaking, we may not have 0 here. So we will be getting small, say 0.001 volt output here. So because there is a residual magnetism exists in this field. You see, this is the field circuit, field indication. So that EMF, this is a theoretical case. Practically, we will be getting some small amount of residual voltage in the circuit. Clear? When the core is at right, so ES1 small, very small, they say 0.1, ES1 is 0.1, ES2 is minus 3. So 0.1 minus 3, minus 2.9 here, right? Minus 2.9 here. Say ES1, consider ES1 is plus 0.1 volt. This is minus 3 volt. So we will be getting minus 2.9 volt. 2.9 volt. Okay, understand? Similarly, the core at a left extreme, ES1 is maximum, ES2 is smaller, so we will get positive output as we see in the previous. Okay, so this is about the operation. If this core is if the LVDT is placed in vertical displacement, this is simply the name wise we are changing. The core is at top extreme, core is at bottom extreme, and the core is at middle. So this is very simple, very important topic. Okay. Okay. Next we see variable reluctance type proximity transducer. This is also very simple in construction. So only one coil wound in the bar magnet. So P shapes, that is U-shaped bar magnet. So the see, this is output unit. So there is magnetic field rotating in this field. So the air gap between this movable iron plate, this is a metal plate, and this is core. Both are magnetically sensitive cores. So this is the air gap. So air gap between the displacement plate and this plate. So this air gap is very less. Suppose the plate is just over this, there is zero reluctance. So you know reluctance is the resistance. Okay. So as the displacement moves towards this side, air gap increases. So when the air gap increases, reluctance is more. So when the reluctance is more, the inductance reduces. Okay. You know the relation L equal to N square by R. Simply N square by R. So the reluctance increases, inductance of the coil decreases. So the depend on the displacement, we can change the inductance. The change in inductance can be detected using AC bridges. So this is the AC excitation. This is the standard inductor for variable inductor to get the null deflection. Okay. So when the zero displacement, you get null deflection by balancing this bridge using this variable inductance. So this is very simple variable reluctance type of proximity transducer or displacement transducer. Okay. So this is another simple, another construction with more sensitive because it uses two coils, so more output from this circuit. Here only one output, so the output from the bridge, the AC bridge will be small when compared with this arrangement. The main difference here is the movable plate is pivoted at the middle. So this plate can move up and down. Say this can move. We will get a differential inductor output. So this is when displacement is this and this side. So you can detect the output. Okay, so this is a pivoter. This pivoter for the this type of motion. Okay, so when the target is here, the detector is more. The coil A gives more output. When this moves towards this side, the B coil will give more displacement. So this can be again connected to various mutual inductive transducers bridges are available. So or otherwise you can use this bridge, this AC bridge also. Here connect this coil here. Connect this coil to this. Okay. So same is to detect the inductance from these two coil. The two arms of AC bridge is replaced the transducer coils. So this is the AC excitation, as we know that for AC bridge AC excitation, detector is vibrational galvanometer or headphone. This is a simple variable reluctance type because we are varying the reluctance of the reluctance, that is the air gap between the movable plate and the iron coil, the core. This is eddy current transducer. So this is very simple. The eddy current transducer is having two coil, one active coil and one balance coil or dummy coil. Okay, dummy coil. So this actually the eddy currents also called forecast. Okay, forecast coil. So magnetic flux induced in the active coil is passed through the conductor and producing eddy currents. The density of the current is depend on the frequency of the excitation, then permeability and the electrical conductivity. Okay, so penetration depth, the density, penetration depth of the eddy current transducer depend on this relation. Okay, so this is simple eddy current transducer circuitry. See, this is the active coil. This is compensating coil or dummy coil or the balance coil. This coil is mainly for temperature compensation. As I told earlier, the eddy current is sensitive to temperature as well as temperature and the conducting magnetic metal as well as temperature. Okay, because all the conducting materials are sensitive to temperature. That's why if this also is having cross sensitive. That is cross sensitive means this active coil also sensitive to temperature. Okay, the amount of eddy current more when X is less. So the displacement between the conducting material and the active coil, the displacement between the conductive material and the active coil is less, then we will get more eddy current. Less, when it is less, more eddy current. When it is X is large, we will be very less. So because of this variation, it alters the bridge. So it causes the change in bridge. Okay, unbalances the bridge. So that unbalanced voltage is directly proportional to displacement between the conductive coil and the active coil. This has high frequency. Actually, this should be excited by high frequency excitation, very high frequency excitation, say in the order of kilohertz, high frequency excitation. So this is high frequency excitation. This is the capacitors. This is the fixed capacitors. This is the resistive arms. Okay. So this is the probe. The probe consists of a compensating coil and the active coil. This compensating coil for temperature compensation. The high frequency, why we accept the high frequency? The high frequency allow a thin target, very small target to be used, which has good frequency response. The 1/10 of the supply frequency. If you say 100 kilohertz excitation, 100 kilohertz frequency, then the frequency response, okay, will be at least 1/10. It will give 10 kilohertz frequency. 10 kilohertz frequency. Why we are using low pass filter here? Because of it gives very high frequency. Okay, so it rejects only low pass filter, low frequencies. The diameter of the conducting material, this diameter of this conducting material should be larger, so that at least the diameter of the conducting material should be large, so that there will be a good output. At least the diameter of the conductor diameter is more or less equal to the active coil diameter. Okay, the probe diameter. At least it should be. Suppose the conductive diameter is like this. Suppose the probe diameter is same as that of that. Either this should be same diameter, or this conductive material should be larger than this. Say this is conducting plate, the probe diameter is smaller. So this is possible. But the conducting plate diameter, this one, the probe diameter should not larger. So this is very important design consideration in eddy current transducers. Okay. The applications of eddy current transducers for position measurement, very precise. It can measure in micrometer also, micrometer displacement. So mainly used in CNC machines. Okay, computerized numerical control machines. Even it is used in the disk drives in our hard disk PCs or laptop. You just imagine this size of the probe. So it is also used for vibration motion measurement, mainly with non-contact type of vibration measurement. Mostly vibration is measured using the contact type, but it is used for non-contact. So measuring distance shaft, to and fro motion shaft in the vibrating instruments. The advantage is this can be carried out in rough and mixed environment, any metal, non-metal mixing environment. This is very cost effective. This device is sensitive to materials in the gap. Say this device also sensitive. Suppose some metal is placed in between the conducting material and the compensating material. So not here. This, if any material between the conducting plate and the coil, active coil, this also sensitive to the third material. The third material, that is it is insensitive to the third material in the gap. That's why it is used in the mixed environment between the probe and the conductor. The device is less expensive, has high frequency response than the capacitive transducer. The results are, this is precise only if the gap is very small. If the gap is more, it is not accurate. The device cannot be used for finding the position between non-conductive material. There always occur nonlinear relationship between distance between the probe and the conducting plates. The impedance of the active coil of the device, that is, this problem can overcome only calibrating the device. We have to calibrate the setup at the frequency interval times. Okay, there are always the device is highly temperature sensitive. This can be overcome by adding a suitable balance coil to the circuit. That balance coil is called compensating coil. This is for insensitiveness of temperature. So this device is highly temperature sensitive. Clear? Actually, this is the equivalent circuit of LVDT. So the primary coil consists of coil whose resistance RP is primary resistance. This is the primary inductance. The current flowing inside this is IP. So when there is no output, when there is no meter connected across the output, this is open circuited. When there is the secondary is open circuited, there won't be any current flowing in this part, because if the circuit is closed, then only the current is flowing in the secondary. Okay, but first we write the description for these parameters. Let EX is excitation, primary coil excitation, RP is the primary coil resistance, IP is the primary current, LP is the primary inductance, M1 is the mutual inductance between primary coil and the secondary coil 1, M2 is the mutual inductance between primary coil and the secondary coil 2, LS is the consideration of secondary inductance. Second in the LS, simply LS is the inductance of the secondary circuit, RS is the resistance of the secondary circuit, but we are dividing equally to equal number of turns, that is LS by 2, LS by 2. Similarly, RS by 2, RS by 2. The total secondary inductance is LS. Total secondary resistance is RS. So when there is the output is open circuited, that means there is no load. So under no load condition, this is for no load condition. What is the EMF induced in the primary coil, secondary coil due to primary? That is L, suppose simple EMF induced in the coil is L di by dt. Here no inductance, here mutual inductance. So M1 dIp by dt. Then similarly the EMF induced in the secondary is M2 dIp by dt. So M2 dIP by dt. So the output is difference between ES1 and ES2. So M1 minus M2 dIP by dt. So to get a transfer function model when LVDT is open circuited, so no load condition, you apply Laplace transfer function for this circuit. You apply Laplace transfer function for this circuit, get the ratio between primary and output and input. So what is IP? From this circuit, you apply the Kirchhoff's voltage law. What is EX? EX equal to IP RP plus LP DIP by dt. Okay, so from this you get the expression for IP. So what is IP? You for this circuit. So IP equal to IP, or apply Laplace transfer function for this equation. EX. Okay, EX of S equal to IP of bracket, take bracket, RP plus S, because dIP by D is S IP of S. So S IP, that is IP taken outside, S LP of S. SLP. Okay. So from this, what is IP? EXS by RP plus SLP. So that we can substitute here in this relation. Say here we take. So here ES equal to M1 minus M2 into DIP by dt. DIP by dt. So yeah, DIP by dt. Okay. So instead of this DIP by dt, here you apply Laplace transfer function. What do we get? ES of S. ES is input. So ES of S, write in capital letters this one. S equal to M1 minus M2, M1 minus M2 into S IP of S. Yes, IP of S. So now you know, we already know that this IP of S, this is capital IP of S, because we have taken the Laplace transform. What is IP of S? The IP of S, EX of S divided by RP plus SLP. You substitute instead of IP of S, here instead of this IP of S, substitute EX. So this is output, E naught of S secondary, this is output. So EX of S divided by RP plus SLP, right? SLP. So what is the transfer function when what is the transfer function when the output is no loaded? So when the no load, the LVDT is no load condition, output E naught of S by EX of S. So E naught of S by ES of X. So according to the modeling procedure, I already informed that to get transfer function model, get the Laplace transform of output to Laplace transform of input. So bring this EX to left hand side. So the transfer function model is E naught of S divided by Ex of S, Ex of S equal to M1 minus M2, okay, into S divided by RP 1 plus S LP by RP. So divide both numerator denominator by RP. So in the numerator it goes S by RP. So the LP by RP is nothing but tau P, the time constant of the primary circuit. If the circuit contains purely inductive, then the time constant of the circuit is L by R. If the circuit is purely resistive and capacitive network, then the time constant is tau equal to RC. So the time constant of the electric circuit tau equal to RC. If it is a RC network, then tau equal to L by R if it is a L by L and resistance and inductive network. So tau P equal to R. So the M1 minus M2 into S of S divided by RP divided by 1 plus S LP by RP. So this is the transfer function model of the LVDT when there is no load condition. Okay. So next is if we connect a meter to measure the output of the LVDT, the meter resistance RM included in the network. Okay. So when we connect a meter, there is a current, secondary current IS flowing in the secondary circuit IS. So as far as the Thevenin's theorem, the total voltage, the open circuit voltage is equal to the loading output. Okay, that's why this this voltage will take another color. This M1 minus M2 divided by M2 S divided by RP 1 plus S LP by RP. This should be equal to the secondary circuit. So what is the secondary EMF? The total EMF induced in the secondary circuit is RS plus RM. The RS is the total secondary coil resistance. RM is the meter. So the meter resistance included in that. So this equal to RS plus RM into IS plus LS DIS by DT. Okay. So LS, the EMF induced in the two coils. So self-inductance. This is the EMF due to the self-inductance. So you equate these two. Also the output when connect the meter is E0 is IS, the voltage across the meter resistance. So current IS is now flowing here. So E0 equal to IS by into RM. So after taking this, actually this is wrong. This is yes. Okay, D should be replaced by S. So this equal to this. You apply Laplace transfer function. You will get this relation. Okay, this RM. This is S. Here you divide the entire circuit by, this is also yes, sorry. Yes, this is yes. Okay, this is not T, tau. This tau, time constant tau. So E0 of X, this should be in capital letter, not in small letter. Okay, E0, EX. E0 of this should be yes in Laplace domain. E0 of S by Ex of S should be equal to M1 minus M2 divided by RM by RP or this RM by RP. This is constant, right? You can treat as K, RM by RP into 1 plus tau P S plus 1, tau S plus 1. So tau S, the time constant in the secondary circuit is LS by RS plus RM, total resistance in the secondary circuit. This is the transfer function model of LVDT with loading condition. So very, very important topic. So briefly describe a LVDT and working condition, construction, and the signal conditioning circuit, and the equivalent circuit, and transfer function model with loading condition and without loading condition. Very, very important. Okay. Don't please, you already wrote notes for this as an assignment. Very good. But you try to understand the concept. You can easily remember the equations, right? So with this, let me wind up. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.